Hi, and welcome to Autism Hope Library. I'm just super excited. I have somebody that we've had on before, and if you missed her last interview, go back and see it because she's amazing. Brittany Sikes is from United Behavioral Consultants, and she's here talking about what the heck do we do right now during the pandemic with our kids at home that have special needs, ASD. How are we doing the social distancing thing? This is a hard time for a lot of our families. So welcome, Brittany. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, this is a hard time. I mean, distance learning right now is it's amazing that that's actually a term. I feel like that must going to be in the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
So before we get started, though, for those people that did not happen to see your last interview, and again, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. But can you introduce yourself so they understand why you're so passionate to help families?
Yeah, my name is Brittany, and I'm the clinical director at United Behavior Consultants. We provide ABA services to families, and I've been in the field for about 10 years. And I really got into it just because I wanted to be able to help families, help kids. It's such a hard time for families trying to figure out this whole world of autism. And so we really pride ourselves in being helpers to the families and being advocates for our families to really make sure that they're receiving the help that they really need and to make them feel confident in being able to raise their child on their own. So at this time, we're really focusing on distance learning with all of our families, and we know it's a really big struggle with all of them.
It is really difficult. Even for neurotypical families right now, you're seeing on Facebook, they're having a lot of anxiety and they're just so stressed out. But then you add in, a label of autism or any other special needs label, and really it exaggerates that thing by 100+% in my mind. And so, many of our kids, they like routine, they're used to their certain therapist, they're used to how their day goes. And now it's like balls in the air, just juggling up, trying to figure out what to do. And these poor families, they're a little bit lost. And because their whole entire team has been kind of pulled apart in a lot of ways. So let's talk about some tips on what we can do to help these families at home right now today. So what are some tips that we can do?
Definitely. So the very first one that we talk to parents about is just making a schedule for yourself. Realizing there's only so much you can get done in the day and so much that your kid can get done in the day. And so setting a schedule where it's manageable for you, allowing yourself to have lunchtime with your child, letting yourself have an end time for school. Even if you don't finish something, it's okay to say, we have to do it later. We don't have enough time in the day to do this. Setting a time to wake up, setting a time to go to bed, just so you have that routine, because even in school, they have a set time and a set routine. And so if you can implement that in your home, that's a great way for you to be able to manage your own time and to manage the time for your child.
And I think not feeling guilty too, of not getting everything done. I've heard that from families of, gosh, I couldn't get it all done. But I don't think they realize even at school settings or in therapy sessions, you definitely have way more on your goal list. You have way more on your schedule list. And often you're not hitting all of those, correct?
Right. Yes. And it's okay to, if your child's having an off day, it's okay to say, okay, this isn't going to work today. I need to change the schedule around. If, your child needs more breaks, that's okay. If, your child can't sit on Zoom for an hour listening to the teacher lecture, that's okay. Set it up to where your child is able to succeed and that you're not going crazy at home trying to implement something that they might not be able to do at school anyway.
And when you're looking at creating a schedule, do you recommend visuals? Do you recommend printing stuff out and putting it on the refrigerator, putting it on the iPad? What's your recommendation?
So I would say whatever your child likes, what is motivating for your child. If your child really enjoys having a tablet and an iPad, it might be a really good idea to set it on there. If your child is someone who's very visual, like a visual learner, having those icons for them instead of it saying math, having a math problem there. It's very dependent on what motivates your child. And One day the iPad schedule might work and the next day it might not work. So you might have to switch it up and know that that's okay. It's not going to work every single time.
And so that's tip number 1. What's tip number 2?
My second tip is to make sure that you're using things that are motivating for your child. Mm-hmm. We all do things based off of our motivation. What makes us feel good? What do we like? And so if you're teaching something to your child and they're really motivated by Legos or something like that, you can create that learning opportunity through the Legos. If they're really motivated by, YouTube videos, there's tons and tons of learning videos that you can look up online to be able to watch with them and use that as a learning material. Really finding what is that motivation is really important to be able to keep your child to sustain during this time.
I think motivation, most of us parents, that's what we use often. Some people think it's bribery, but it's not. Motivation is totally different than bribery. And often people, I think, mix up those two. With my son, he loves the beach. And so on Sundays, we like to do this thing called surfing. It's boogie boarding, but I've been told it's still considered surfing because apparently it's a whole thing. I don't know. And so he loves that. And it's fascinating to me how well he can help clean his room, get everything ready, do all the stuff that's on his list to do when he wants to do something, right? If I don't have that high-end motivational piece, it's like, he may do, 3 out of the 7 things that I want him to do. He might do 1 of the 7 things, and the other might be me just like really trying to, jump from, like I always say, stand on my head and, juggle a whole bunch of balls at the same time. Because it's insane how that motivation piece is just, it blows my mind on how well that works, at least for my kiddo. And I know every kiddo is different. But I feel like when you're learning even, and I've seen a lot of therapists, they'll find out, this is kind of a silly example, but just to keep it simple, they'll find, oh, your child loves dinosaurs. Okay, so maybe we're going to be working on fine motor and, some math skills. So instead of just having, dots or something, they will literally get dinosaurs and they will use the dinosaurs in the place of the dots, kind of thing. It's a really simple thing, but if you've never done it before, you're like, why didn't I think of that? Like, oh yeah, that's such an easy thing, So, those are some of the things I've learned from different therapists of, gosh, use the thing they like, duh, of course.
Yeah. And we've definitely been doing that a lot right now with distance learning is, if they are having a math worksheet, we'll pull out math materials, Legos or dinosaurs or whatever it is, and we'll do math with those.
Yeah. Or if there's a motivation at the end, like, okay, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, and that's where your schedule, I think, can come into play, is then they know that anticipation, I feel, for a lot of the kids on the spectrum is the hardest part. At least it is for my son. For him to not know what's going to happen, it seems to cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And again, this is so different for so many kids because they're used to, either riding a bus to school or getting to school and having their favorite teacher and then going from that classroom to another classroom. To now it's like they're expected to just go, oh, there's this thing called Zoom. And, my son doesn't do so well on this whole Zoom thing because he wants to see the person. So he's not understanding like, well, why am I seeing you in here? And now why aren't you at my house? Like, they're not getting this whole pandemic. A lot of them aren't understanding. I don't think all of us understand. So how do we expect them to understand? So what's number 3?
So the next one is just use simple techniques. What works for your child? You know your child best. And so really, what is it that works for him or her? And don't stress if it's not working. We can always look and try and find something else that's more effective. I was on a Zoom call last week with a client. I was with him and he was on Zoom for school, and he was just having the hardest time with understanding why he couldn't talk the entire time, right? Because he has so much to say. And so what we would do is I'd tell him, okay, we're going to, mute for 5 minutes, and then we'll be able to talk for a couple of minutes. And, just really using those simple techniques that work well with your kid.
And when we're saying kid, just so we don't get mail that says, well, my kid's 19, my kid's 22, like this works, it doesn't matter the age, but I always say kiddo because it's somebody's kiddo. So I just want you all to know that's why we're saying kiddo. I like to give the disclaimer. Okay, so what is the next step?
Incorporating life skills, making a schedule and things like that, you can incorporate their daily routine into that. So it's not just for school, it's not just for distance learning. It can be, you can do a little bit of work for school, and then, maybe they like to make their own snacks or something like that, and you can implement that and use that as another teaching opportunity, following directions or, measuring things out. You can incorporate life skills into so much at home, and they do that in the school setting as well. And so you can definitely do that in your home.
And I love that because I think if in a school setting, there's less opportunity to have the same type of life skills that you would have at home. So I feel like, right now, it's almost like the curriculum could change a bit of really focusing, like maybe this season is really just focusing on those life skills, and you can incorporate math and cooking, you can incorporate English and reading and cooking, you can incorporate science. There's so many different things you can incorporate. With our son, because of your amazing help. So Brittany, I'm going to make sure everybody I have a disclaimer. Brittany is our son's supervisor and amazing angel from above is what we always call her because we just love her so much. And so we do a lot of life skills in our home right now. And, it's been very eye-opening for me because was so many things that I didn't think, and I'll be honest, I didn't think he could do, or he wasn't ready to do, or I didn't even think about incorporating him to do that. Like I was so used to doing all the cooking and getting everything prepped and the cleaning. And then Brittany's like, yeah, so there's this thing called life skills, Kristen. And like, he should be helping with that stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know if he's going to want to. Well, okay. And then we got to use his motivation to get him to want to, And so all these little things of like getting like cute aprons and like getting like the fun, like measuring cups. And a lot of times in the beginning, it was modeling. Sometimes it still is modeling. But even if you get him to just scoop the one thing one time, it's like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing victory. And so I get very excited. And now he knows how to turn the shower on by himself and, looking for that hot and cold water. Again, hot and cold, that could be science, just to let y'all know, right? That's also could be reading. That's also a life skill. That's also fine motor. There's also gross motor involved. I mean, there's so many goals just going into the shower, and sensory, because now they have to take the loofah and do all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, when Brittany talks, sometimes my brain's like, woo, yeah, like we did all that. What? I thought we just took a shower. So I love that kind of stuff. So I want you guys not to freak out when you're at home right now, because honestly, there's so many different things that are considered on those little bullet points of, all these different skills. And you know what? Maybe they're not going to be amazing at, knowing all the states by the end of, the summer or whatever, but maybe they're going to be able to cook you dinner and like clean their room and take a shower. And then when this whole pandemic thing gets over, that's so cool because they wouldn't have been able to do that in the school setting. And that's what I keep trying to remind myself, when I'm helping parents and talking to parents, and I'm like, no, this is what's actually like happening. How cool is that? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. We've been able to focus so much more on life skills and, social skills and things like that with our clients because we're at home and we have to work on those things with them. And sometimes that gets missed out on in school. And so it's such a great opportunity to kind of shift what our focus is and really focus on what it is that will eventually, when they're adults and things like that, will have a lasting effect for them.
Yeah, I heard somebody say once, my kid might not know how to add perfectly, but they know how to use a calculator. And I'm like, and then now there's like Siri and like, I hate to say the word Alexa because there's one in my office. Like every time I say that word, like she's like, yes, may I help you? You're like, I wasn't really talking to you, but okay. But yeah, it's funny because, my son's now trying to talk to these machines. And it's fascinating because we didn't have those tools before. So I think that's something also to think about when you're going through this, is that we have a lot more resources that we can use at home that we never used to have before. I mean, can you imagine 10 years ago if this happened? There was no Zoom, there was no there wasn't barely, there was internet, but not to the way it is today, So I feel like if it was going to happen, at least it happened now and not when we have, remember the phones that were connected to the cord to the house that you would wrap around your whole, living room to try to get to the bathroom to close the door. I mean, now we have cell phones and we can see each other on the phones, so I feel like if it was going to happen, at least it happened now where we can stay more connected in a certain way to the best way we know how. Now, I know we have another tip. What is our next tip?
Our next tip is to allow yourself to take breaks. They don't have to be really long breaks, but if you have a kiddo who is really antsy and can't sit for a very long time, just take a little movement break. It's okay to just mute them on Zoom if they're on distance learning and let them get their wiggles out and get up and move around. Or maybe they need to take a break where you're not placing any demands on them and they're just able to just be by themselves and, do whatever makes them happy, or just lay in their bed, and just really allow them that time. It is such a different time for them, and it's so stressful with them not knowing when they're going to go back, if they're going to go back, if they're going to have to do distance learning until the end of the school year. And for some of our kids who have limited communication skills, it's even more stressful for them. And so allowing them to have those like stress relieving breaks that we all really need even during this time.
And so when you said mini breaks, I thought first you were talking about us getting wine or something. So you're talking about the kids.
No, we all need breaks. So you can always, while your little one is getting break, you can have a wine break.
I was like, oh, mini breaks. Oh, not us. Okay, for them. But I do think, though, for families, it is important. I know a lot of us don't have a lot of help, and that's always seems to be the number one kind of issue out there that I get from emails like, I'm by myself. I don't have any help. I'm either a single parent or, the other person works full time and, or somebody's working from home. There's all this stuff going just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is what I always say. It's just crazy. But you have to find those moments, whether it be, when everybody's asleep and it's 5 minutes and you're just like, listening to your favorite song or reading something funny, or I always like to go to YouTube and watch like comedians because I can get 5 minutes of laughter in. And so I think it's so important for us to even have that kind of, I call it like a brain break, right? Where as a parent, you're so stressed out. You want everything to be the way it was. But right now, we got to kind of figure out this is the way it is. Right. And I don't think any of us are signing up saying, yay, I'm going to be doing this forever. This is awesome. But this is what's happening, And so, one of the things that we did when I was talking to Brittany was in our home, we were lucky enough to have what we call a rec room, and we had a swing. But the swing, he was kind of outgrowing because he kept hitting his head on the ceiling. And so I was able to get him a bigger swing that's more of like a hammocky kind of swing, and it really helps with calmness, and it doesn't go very high. And so I know during his breaks, like that's one of his motivational breaks too, is like, hey, you want to go swing? Okay, well, let's finish this, and then you can go swing for 5 minutes. And I will tell you that 5 minutes of him doing what he needs to do, he will come back so much more engaged, so much more willing participation. And I think that when you see your kids do that, the reason I share this is because you need that too. You need that. If they're going to go do something for 5 minutes and they can do it alone and they're safe, then maybe take that 5 minutes, to have, or even if it's 2 minutes, whatever it is. You also need that, because when you're stressed out, they know you're stressed out. They know that you don't know what you're doing. And I'm going to tell you, we don't know what we're doing. We're just doing our best, right? But I feel like this anxiety right now is just so much. And I mean, I get so many emails every week from families. And, that's why I asked Brittany, please, can we do this interview? Because so many of you guys are just, you're lost. And I don't know if any of us have all the answers. All we can have are simple tools and techniques that, hey, try it. If that doesn't work, try this. If that doesn't work, try that, kind of thing. And if you happen to live somewhere where you can get outside, where it's safe, luckily I'm in Southern California, we can go outside, even if it just be in our backyard. Those are also great breaks. Wouldn't you say, Brittany?
Yes, definitely. Even if you can just take a walk around the block,
Yeah.
or, just getting that fresh air. I think something that we've all realized through this time is we really need that like fresh air and just get out of the house and, just be outside for a few minutes and allow your child to get out as well, is really important right now. And so to find those moments in time that you can do that.
Well, and I think one lesson is that it doesn't have to be perfect. There is nothing perfect about what's going on right now. So this does not have to be perfect. I've seen people stress out even on the space that they're making, because they'll see on Facebook a mom who is like Martha Stewart, okay? And I don't know where she gets her skills, but they're mad skills. And she makes it just so perfect. And you're just like, wow. And oh, but I built this table and I painted that wall and it's special this bobber or whatever. And you're just like, oh my goodness gracious, I have this one little like fold up table, if I'm lucky, that can go in the corner with like my old beat up laptop from like 4 jobs ago. And that's what I got, right? And my thing is, don't compare yourself to other people. Like, that's not what it's about. It's at the end of the day, it's about having a connection with your kiddo. It's about letting your kiddo know that they're loved. It's about letting them know that, like, hey, you know what? Sometimes mommy and daddy don't know all the answers, and it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And if it means that they learn how to make a meal, or even just help you cook or take a shower or kind of make their bed, where I'm at right now is they kind of make their bed. Like, I'm going to take that as a victory. And since I'm his teacher, guess what? He gets an A. So that's how I look at it. I was joking the other day. I'm like, he got straight A's. This is awesome. So I love that. And so I feel like all we can kind of do is just try our best to stay positive. And I don't think this is going to be forever. This is right now. And so we just have to look at it the best way we can and reach out to people like Brittany. And she has like 1,000,001 ideas. And let me tell you, even if she doesn't know the answer, she'll say, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try that. So just because it worked for one kiddo doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, because your kid has its own cookie, recipe. It's like, it's a totally separate recipe from everybody else. And so like, she's just trying to give you the foundation of things to begin with. So what message do you want to leave them with? But before you do that, where do they find you? Like, especially if they're in Southern California area.
Yeah, so we're actually located in Santa Ana, California. You can find us on Instagram at United Behavior Consultants. We have a ton of posts on there about distance learning, about learning styles, what it is that you can do during this time. And then you can also find us on Facebook or just our website, which is allunitedbehaviorconsultants.com.
And what message do you want to leave with the families right now?
I know it's just a really tough time, and really look at what your support group has for you and, cling to those people, ask them for support. If you are needing more help, reaching out to other professionals that you run into contact with, and just know that it's okay right now. If you can just survive right now, it's okay if that's where you're at. And just know that you're not going to get everything done, and that's okay. Give yourself the leeway to not be perfect.
I like that. Give yourself the leeway to not be perfect. And remember, sometimes good is just enough. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I love that. So, well, thank you so much for being here today, Brittany. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And for everyone watching, just remember, we're going to get through this. We're doing everything we can to get through it together. And you're not alone. Reach out to people like me. Reach out to people like Brittany. Reach out to other parents. And, but just try not to be so hard on yourself, because your kiddos at the end of the day, like always, are just going to make it through it. Like, that's all we can do. So until next time, bye guys.